So Bernie Sanders, if you were living under a rock this entire week, announced that he was running for president in 2020, and he absolutely crushed it in terms of his fundraising, setting the record for all the 2020 candidates. He raised nearly $6 million. These excerpts I'm about to read you are from the Intercept right here. So Sanders announced his candidacy early Tuesday, and by the next morning, he'd pulled off nearly $4.5 million more than the number two fundraiser so far, Senator Kamala Harris. She raised $1.5 million in the first 24 hours, which her campaign said was likely a record at the time. Senator Elizabeth Warren, whose politics are more closely aligned with Sanders than other candidates, raised only $300,000, which is actually very low for Elizabeth Warren, but I have an idea of why that is. Sanders vastly outdid the $1.5 million he raised in 2016 campaign's first day. This year, Sanders raised $5.925 million from 223,047 individual donors from all 50 states in just one day. The average contribution came out to $27, the same average contribution that Sanders pulled back in 2016. So, yeah, he absolutely killed it. So he basically beat Kamala Harris in his fundraising by $4.5 million in the first 24 hours. She was the current record holder before that. And she had 38,000 individual donations, which isn't something to laugh at in 24 hours. That's definitely a decent amount of grassroots support. But Bernie Sanders blew that number out. It wasn't even close. And there's a reason why he blew that number out. Is first off, he has been on this individual donation thing well before everyone else has. So the people that supported him in 2016, the people that have been building up in this fervor for him to run again, they already know he only takes individual donations. That's part of the reason why they love him. So they know what the deal is. They know the moment he announces that they're going to go donate to his campaign. And I think they said something along the lines of a little bit over $600,000 of that is in recurring donations. So that those donations will happen every month. So he automatically can count on $600,000 per month coming in from individual donations now, which is huge, and that's what's needed. I mean, for a candidate to be a real grassroots candidate and have and not take corporate PAC money and not be taking big money bundling, you have to have a lot of grassroots support out there, and you have to have a ton of individual donations. And that's exactly what he's doing, and it's fantastic to hear. I think everybody that's been clued in with Bernie Sanders has basically known that he was going to really slam it home the moment he announced. But to see that he actually ended up getting that much and just shattered Kamala Harris's record, that's great news to hear. I think it kind of is like a warning shot to the establishment now to say, you've been underestimating me for a really, really long time now. And everybody that's underestimating me and brushing me off as just not being a real contender to win this thing, you are out of your mind. And you're honestly just a fucking idiot. If you think that Bernie Sanders just has no shot at all, that you can just brush him off and that he has no chance of winning. And I actually saw a Fox News headline about 5 to 10 minutes before I ended up doing this video. I didn't get to read it. I didn't get a chance to read through the actual article yet, but I just saw the headline saying something along the lines of, yeah, Bernie Sanders raised a lot of money, but who cares? Who cares? It's here's why he has absolutely no chance of winning. And it was something, I'm paraphrasing that a little bit, but it was basically directly along those lines. So whatever they were saying in that article, I'll have to read it and I'll have to recap it at some point in time. Maybe I'll tweet that out later. So check my Twitter feed later on today at Plutocracy Today for that. I'll put that out, and I'll probably end up making a video at some point to critique that article. If it's even worth critiquing, it may not even be worth wasting my time. But this is fantastic news for all the progressives that want Bernie Sanders to really storm the House in this 2020 primary, take down all of these establishment candidates, and he'll maul Donald Trump if it gets to that. The Republicans can do this scare tactic of Bernie Sanders is a socialist all they want, but it's not working. There is just a growing amount of people in this country that favor socialism over capitalism. And it's almost to the point where in a lot of polls, there is a majority of people that are millennials that look at socialism more favorably than capitalism. So if Fox News thinks that they're going to turn all of these Bernie Sanders supporters away by saying something about him being socialist, it's not going to work. The socialist stuff only works on the Republican base, but they're already going to go out and vote for Donald Trump anyway. And then the people who have lost their jobs in the Midwest that voted for Donald Trump the first time and thought that he was going to bring manufacturing jobs back and thought that all of his populist rhetoric was actually legitimate, a lot of them are turned off now because they've seen what happened, and he hasn't brought their jobs back. And he continues to do deals that are basically outsourcing again. Like he said he was against the TPP, but then in the renegotiations of NAFTA, all of a sudden he has provisions from TPP in that. So I think at least a decent amount of people in the Midwest are now seeing that Donald Trump was just basically blowing smoke up their ass and that he is not actually for them. And I think Bernie Sanders is going to take those people back again, and he's going to kill it with the independents. Every poll that I've seen since 2016 has Bernie as one of the most popular candidates in the country every single time among independents and among Democrats. And in terms of favorability of a Democratic candidate with Republicans, he is easily one of the most favorable. So in all aspects, Bernie Sanders is very popular as a Democratic candidate. And there was one other stat that I want to just pull up real quick. I just keep all these screenshots on my phone of the articles I'm going to do. As I get better at video editing, I'm basically just going to do the thing where I pop it up on there for you. But I'm honestly running out of town later on tonight, so I'm just trying to get this all done and ready to go for everybody so that way I can release it all. You guys can have the content, that way I can go away and feel like I did my job. So just bear with me really quickly. So this is an excerpt from a CNN article by Harry Anton, I think it's Harry Anton. But for people who don't know who Harry Anton is, him and Chris Cillizza are always these people that are forecasting the primaries and are always giving their political, if you want to call it insight, it's really not insight at all. But there are people that basically give their opinion on what's going to happen, and they announce who they think the front runners are going to be. They do their stupid little power rankings that make no sense at all and completely throw sand in the face of all of the progressive candidates, where they rank Bernie Sanders 6th and 7th, even though he polls as the first or second most popular politician in the country in every poll. So, and just for the record, he basically polls as the most popular politician in the country in 90% of those polls. Don't quote me on that exact number, but almost every poll I've seen has him as the most popular politician in the country. So, and where was I with that? So in terms of that, Harry Anton had put this in his article, and he tried to poo-poo it a little bit. He tried to say, well, also, there are other numbers to look at here in terms of how likely the candidate is going to be to actually win the primary and win the nomination of their party. So don't look at just this, even though this is very important. There are reasons why maybe Bernie Sanders can't win and he's not as formidable, but he did have to include this, and he even had to say that, yes, that is impressive. So, and I quote Harry Anton here from CNN, "The majority of candidates who won their party's nomination led the field in early fundraising. This includes Walter Mondale in 1984, George H.W. Bush in 1988, Michael Dukakis in 1988, Bob Dole in 1996, George W. Bush in 2000, Al Gore in 2000, Mitt Romney in 2012, and Hillary Clinton in 2016. A number of them did not, however. Ronald Reagan in 1980, John Kerry in 2004, John McCain in 2008, Barack Obama in 2008, and Donald Trump in 2016. This 62% success rate of early fundraising forecasting the winner is nothing to sneeze at. Most people who run for president don't win their party's nomination, so something that is associated with winning a majority of the time is notable." Yes, you were damn right. I almost called him Chris Cillizza because they're basically the same person in terms of the opinions they put out there on CNN. But, yeah, you're damn right, Harry Anton. It is formidable, and it is notable, and he is going to win. Unless there is some kind of corrupt backroom deal inside of the DNC where they rig everything against him and try and do everything they can to keep him from winning, you're looking at Bernie Sanders as the Democratic nominee in 2020. I got news for you guys. The establishment still doesn't think it, and they're still trying to just brush it off like it's nothing, like they have been ever since 2016, and even when he had announced in 2016 that he was going to try and run, they just continually laugh him off, and they've laughed him off, and they've laughed him off, and they've laughed him off. But now, guess what? It's here. He's killing it in the fundraising right out of the gate. He has the most grassroots support, and just get ready for it. If you want to rank him at 6 again, go right ahead. You'll just look more and more like a fucking idiot. which honestly is what Harry Anton and Crystal Liz are. So I just can't wait for them to be shown up. I just cannot wait for Bernie Sanders to show them up and shut them up and say, all of your bubble talk about me being 6th in the power rankings and somehow being behind Kirsten Gillibrand and all these ridiculous people and being one spot ahead of Amy Klobuchar the one time, which is honestly just the most laughable thing I've ever heard. But I just can't wait for Crystal Liz and Harry Anton to go out there, and they'll do their stupid semantics. They'll never actually admit that they're completely wrong about it. They'll make excuses because that's what all these establishment figures do. But they'll say something about Bernie bros and whatever else, and that they underestimated the amount of sexism if Kamala Harris runs, and that they underestimated the amount of racism inside the Democratic Party. They'll do all these identity politics attacks on why people supported Bernie Sanders over somebody like Kamala Harris. So get ready for that to come when they're actually wrong. But all of us, at the end of the day, know they're morons, and they deserve to be made to look like morons. And I think Bernie Sanders is going to do that for us.